I've spent a ton of time analyzing keybinds, way too much honestly, making videos on everything from movement binds to animation cancels to separate place and edit binds. But now, that means I can make this video, a comprehensive keybinds guide explaining everything there is to know about keybinds for KBM. It's a new chapter, but not everyone wants to make major changes to their binds, so I'll also be explaining which changes are easy to adjust to and which are harder. Some may only take a few days to relearn while others take weeks. But people in general have a pretty backwards way of thinking when it comes to changing keybinds. They'll change the rarely used binds like trap, repair, or opening the map, but don't want to change movement binds or edit binds because of how important they are. The thing is, the more used the bind is, the easier it is to relearn it. You can legit rebind WASD entirely and relearn it in a couple days because you press them all game long, rapidly rebuilding muscle memory. It's not difficult to relearn at all. But if you change something like your repair bind, a month from now you might still press your old bind by accident because you almost never actually press the repair button. And regardless of what your current keybinds are, I can almost guarantee there will be something in this video you'll want to change. First, we need goals to achieve with our keybinds. Good keybinds first and foremost always have control over directional movement. At no point should you ever be unable to move in a specific direction. Good keybinds also have each build piece pressed by a different finger so that regardless of the build combination you're doing, you can place each piece as early as possible to claim piece control. Now that we have our goals, let's get started. The first thing that literally all of you should do if you plan to change your keybinds at all is to shift everything to the middle of your keyboard. The default hand position makes it so that your pinky can really only press a few buttons. If there were more buttons to the side, you'd have more space for keybinds, so moving all of your binds 3 or 4 buttons to the right gives you more buttons, and it's not like your muscle memory can see the keyboard so you don't have to relearn anything. The moment you change the binds, you literally won't notice a difference. Next is one of the easiest yet effective changes that you can make. I've spoken about it before, it's changing your right keybind to be directly above left. The goal is to always have control over directional movement, and it's pretty hard to do if 3 of your most dominant fingers are all on movement. Changing the right bind makes it so only your middle and ring fingers are occupied and your index finger is free for all other binds. And remember, the more often a key is used, the faster you'll relearn the muscle memory. When I changed this a while ago, it only took me a few days to completely relearn. Now all of the other keybind changes I mentioned after this will take a little longer to relearn, with common binds like wall and floor being much quicker than rare binds like repair and carry. Now for the fun part, build binds. Your middle and ring fingers are off limits as binding anything to them would take away from movement, and we need one build bind on each finger. One on pinky, one on index, one on thumb, and then the last one will go on a mouse button. It can be any mouse button, so we'll decide which later based on what other binds need. Well, the primary goals are complete, so the secondary goals are to have the most important keybinds as close to resting position as possible, to press them as quickly as possible, and to make sure simultaneous buttons aren't on the same finger. Like you wouldn't want sprint and jump on the same finger, because sometimes you would have to press them simultaneously. So then the next most important bind would be edit. You'll double and triple tap edit more than any other bind, so it's perfect for your index finger. And every time you edit, you'll have to select edit tiles right after, ideally with your other index finger or your mouse. Select edit is the first bind that's mode specific. Mode specific keybinds can only be activated in one of the 3 modes, combat, build, or edit mode. Intuitively, you've already used this as by default left click makes you shoot while in combat mode, but select edit tiles while in edit mode. By default, you also place build with left click while in build mode, but place build isn't actually a mode specific bind. When you press mode specific binds that only work in build mode, like change material type, it won't do anything if you're in edit mode. But if you're in edit mode and you press your place build bind, you can still activate it and build while in edit mode. Builds also place instantly if you're already holding place building when swapping from combat to build mode. This is why place building isn't actually a mode specific bind and therefore shouldn't be with shoot and select edit on left click. But you can still put a build mode specific bind in its place. The only build mode only bind is change material, so that's what goes there. Next, we do have to put place building somewhere as it's the next most important bind. Since it's something you hold while pressing other build binds, it makes sense not to have it on a finger that presses build binds. So you have either right click or a side mouse button. And remember, our 4th build piece also needs right click or a side mouse button, so one gets right click, the other side mouse button. Either way works, it's up to you. Now you can't forget about your secondary movement. Jump and crouch both need binds, so you can leave jump as default and just put crouch next to it, also on a thumb button, since you can't be crouching and jumping at the same time. Now you have target and reload as the next most important. Both are combat only binds, so the binds you choose can also be used for build and edit only actions. And the only ones left are rotate and reset. Target is already paired with reset by default, and reload is paired with rotate, so might as well leave them paired. There's also an extra build only bind available to be paired with target, so you're free to double bind change materials to it without any downside. You don't have to, it's a pretty small difference, but it does allow you to change to softer materials slightly faster. Instead of double tapping, you can press both of your binds to go straight from brick to wood, metal to brick, or wood to metal. But more importantly is where you're going to put these on your keyboard or mouse. There is one mouse button left, but you don't want target on a side mouse button since it'll negatively impact your aim. And you often edit, then instantly press the reset button, so you don't want both on your index finger. To keep it away from movement binds, it's best on your pinky. For reload and rotate, there's still the side mouse button available, but when rotating builds you're usually rotating more than once, and double or triple tapping a side mouse button is a lot harder than keyboard buttons, so then an index finger button works fine. To make it easy, you can leave it in its default spot where R would normally be. Oh, and you can't forget scroll reset and scroll pickup. Pretty much everyone knows it already, but basically you bind scroll up or down to the second slot of both edit and reset so that you can scroll to instantly reset builds. And bind the other scroll wheel direction to interact so that if you and an enemy land on a weapon, you can just scroll to instantly pick everything up, and when you get a kill, you can scroll to instantly grab all the materials and ammo. The main ones left are pretty much just sprint and weapon binds. Sprint and jump can't be on the same finger, since you wouldn't be able to press both at the same time to sprint jump. So you're down to pinky and index buttons, but you don't want pinky buttons either because it conflicts with inventory. Inventory or cursor mode opens your items, but you can still move and sprint but not jump while looking through your inventory. And for some reason, the button to drop items is always X no matter what, like you can't change it. By the way, inventory and cursor mode do pretty much the same thing, just with cursor mode you hold the button to look through your items, but with inventory you press it to open your items and again to close it. So while in your inventory, you'll need your movement binds free, your sprint bind, and your pinky button to press X. This is why sprint needs to be on an index finger button. When it comes to the weapon binds, traps, pings, map, and even repair or carrying down players, it's just put them where it's comfortable for you to press them as quickly as possible, so close to your resting position. There is one side mouse button left that's probably best for your shotgun slot, but it's up to you. Some players have big hands that can hit far away keys with their index finger, and others have more flexible thumbs and press more thumb keys. Some of you even use mice without side mouse buttons at all, so it's impossible for me to tell you what every single one of your binds should be, but I can tell you how to make the most important ones, and guidelines for how to make perfect binds for you. Remember, you don't have to change everything I mentioned in this video. Look at what your current binds are, and determine which are the best for you to implement. Maybe you just realized you could sprint while in your inventory, so you changed that bind, or maybe you didn't know you could build while in edit mode with the right binds. Okay, that was a lot I just covered, but I tried to explain each part as concisely as possible. If you want more in-depth explanations of say the separate place bind, or the edit mode building, I have videos on my channel going in-depth into each topic. Now I've got to get started making videos on all the new stuff this season, so until next time, farewell.